Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm the R6 lore guy and I'm about to give you one lore fact for every single operator in Rainbow Six Siege up to and including Ram. I have more lore videos on my channel where I go into a deep dive of each operator's lore. We're still working through them, so be sure to comment which one of these operators is your favorite and I'll try and make a dedicated lore video about them. And I just want to quickly say these videos take a lot of effort to make, so if this is your first time on the channel and you do enjoy, consider hitting that sub button. It's free and we're trying to hit 100k by the end of the year. And also consider maybe hitting a like and dropping a comment, since it does help with the algorithm. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So Kapkan used to work in the Ministry of Internal Affairs back home in Russia, and during his time here, he was transferred to Beslan. And it is said that he would partake in the Beslan school siege. This was a real life hostage situation in a school. I learned about this in high school. It is absolutely heartbreaking. I recommend watching a documentary about it. But it is said that Kapkan was involved in this situation and trying to save hostages. So it seems like that was a big part in him joining Rainbow. As far as we are aware, Tachanka has seemingly participated in at least 4 wars. The Soviet-Afghan War, the First Chechen War, the Second Chechen War, as well as the Russo-Georgian War. Glaz has a scar on his right eye, and he tells Harry that this is from a weapon kick. However, it seems that Glaz hints to Harry that that isn't the whole story. Although working for the Russian Spetsnaz, Fuze actually wasn't born in Russia. He was born in the Asian country of Uzbekistan. According to her psychological report, IQ suffers from bouts of insomnia, a sleeping disorder which means it's difficult to get to sleep at night, as well as staying asleep for a long enough time to feel refreshed. It is said that Blitz has a very good friendship with Montagne. This sort of seems to play in with the in-gameplay version of the two Shields operators being quite strong together. In 2006, Bandit would spend 4 years undercover in the Hanover chapter of the Hells Angels biker gang. This is what inspired his elite skin, and this group's base of operation is the map Clubhouse. As we can see on the map Hereford base, it seems like Jager, who's also an aeronautical engineer, helped restoring these Spitfires which are now on display at the base. In 2020, whilst chasing down some robbers alongside Twitch, Rook was shot in the head, but luckily he was saved by his helmet. Doc is said to have a very strong bond with Twitch, however he is said to not be very fond of lying, but it does seem in the most recent times in the lore that they are starting to get along with each other more, and it seems like they have put aside their differences. It is said that Twitch, who has a background in robotics, has recently started to play around more with AI. Harry said that she was very hands-on and compassionate about it, and as time goes on, maybe it's something we'll see her develop with further. During his years of service in the GIGN, it is said that Montagne was once involved with the 1994 French airline hijacking, a real-life hijacking I recommend looking up and reading more about, but this hijacking ended with the GIGN storming the plane and taking out all 4 hijackers. After his completion of high school, Thermite would join the Marines and do 2 tours of Iraq. After he completed his second tour, he would enroll at Texas A&M and earn a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. Pulse was the one to create the first prototype of the cardiac sensor, a prototype he would then go on to use to save the life of a hostage known as Michael Somerset, and it's said that Pulse, as the lead negotiator, as well as the use of his cardiac sensor, were pivotal to the success of the mission. Castle is said to have a knack for putting people at ease and appearing comfortable regardless of whatever situation. This has resulted in him getting some nicknames among the operators such as Papa Bear and the Diplomat. Ash wasn't born in the US, rather she was born in Jerusalem to a Jewish political activist mother and a Palestinian father who is a professor of Middle Eastern studies. Thatcher lives aboard a boat called the Iron Maggie. It seems like he moved there after his wife divorced him. And it seems like a lot of the names around Thatcher is a reference to ex-British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who was the active Prime Minister when the SAS were first shown off to the world. For starters, Thatcher's name is a big enough giveaway, but the name of his boat being the Iron Maggie, with Maggie being short for Margaret, and as well as this, she was also known as the Iron Lady, so the boat being called Iron Maggie is a very obvious reference to that. Smoke has an adopted daughter who he seems very protective of, and only ever showed Harry one photo of her. Harry believed that his daughter allowed Smoke to see the world through her eyes in a new way. Sledge is actually named his breaching hammer, calling him Brucey, and this hammer was also built by Thatcher's uncle, with Thatcher and Sledge being very good friends. Mute is said to keep to himself a lot of the time and be quite quiet. However, it does seem like he gets along very well with Vigil, who would tell him the same thing, that sometimes he is too quiet. When she was younger, Frost once had a hunting accident in which her bush plane had to make an emergency landing in a range called the Nahanni, and after a week of bad weather, help finally arrived and rescued her. Buck was born in Montreal in Quebec, the same city in which Rainbow Six Siege was developed. He would actually get a bachelor's degree in criminology from the University of Quebec. In 2007, while serving in the United States Navy, Valkyrie would work with a Polish operative known as Ella in Operation Orange Sky. Alibi. These two operators would meet once again a decade later when they both joined Rainbow. Blackbeard, driven to succeed in his profession and private life, has once climbed Mount Everest, participated in US sailing championships, and has also sailed around the world on several occasions. Whilst conducting a raid against a criminal organization, Capitao, alongside 3 of his colleagues, were ambushed and held captive and tortured for 2 months straight. This would result in him losing his left eye, and after all of this, he was finally rescued by his cousin Brava. After years of undercover operations within Brazil's most notorious gangs, Caveira became a master of interrogation techniques. She became a key interrogator during the 2010 Rio de Janeiro security crisis, again another real-life event I recommend you look up. It is said in 2005 that Echo went on a joint mission with the Hong Kong Special Duties Unit where he would first meet Ying. Here they would start a romantic relationship with each other and end it a year later. Hibana, which roughly translates to spark, got her nickname during her time at the National Police Academy due to her improvised explosive devices and brilliant leadership skills on the field. In 1985, Jackal's older brother was murdered in an abandoned house, where law enforcement would find Jackal grieving over his brother's lifeless body. It is said that a police officer would comfort Jackal in this time, and when he turned 18, Jackal would join the police academy himself. Mira is the director of R&D inside of Team Rainbow and is responsible for making a lot of the gadgets our operators use. Here's some concept art showing Mira developing Nook's gadget. At the age of 10, Lesion fell into an oil tank while scavenging an old ship and ingested a large amount of toxins. Lesion would then grow up to join the Special Duties Unit to deal with chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear terrorist threats. In 2004, Ying participated in Operation High Sun. In this mission, she had an altercation with a Spetsnaz operator who was actually none other than Fuze. She considered him to be a questionable asset and believed he had a disregard for civilian lives. This altercation would be diffused by none other than Ash, another operator who is on this 2004 mission. Again, all 3 of these operators would reunite once again when they all join Rainbow. Ella once worked in a private military company long before she joined Rainbow and before she would eventually join Nighthaven, another private military. However, she would eventually end her contract at this private military and join the Grom, the unit in which Rainbow would then recruit her from. During a rogue operation in Mali, Zofia and a man would mistake each other for hostiles. This man would later then go on to be Zofia's husband, and together they would have a daughter called Jaina. Dokkaebi's logic bomb is a virus in which she developed herself. It allows her to bypass firewalls, and the program is short and self-erasing, and this is to prevent anyone from unraveling her code and building software to counter her virus. Before his time in Team Rainbow, the White Tigers would do a joint training exercise with the US Navy SEALs. Here, Vigil would meet and be trained by Blackbeard for the first time. Whilst in her training for the Spetsnaz, Finka was doing close quarter battle knife training with Kapkan. After Kapkan had a misstep, he accidentally cut Finka's face open from brow to cheek. She then went on to break his nose and his ribs. The 2 of them would spend the night in the med tent, neither of them speaking, but experiencing a new form of respect for each other. During an outbreak of yellow fever in Sudan, Lion, whilst protecting a field investigation team, used his loud voice to scare back a frightened mob of locals. Here the locals would give him the nickname of Lion. Although being part of an Italian CTU, Alibi was actually originally born in Libya. She would immigrate to Italy with her family at the age of 3. During his time in Iraq, Maestro would get caught in the blast of a roadside IED, leaving him with a scar on his face. Maverick has a tattoo of Afghanistan on his left arm. This is to reflect the time he has spent in that country, specifically in Kabul. Throughout her entire police career, Clash made a total of 274 arrests. She would later go on to be made Detective Constable and even earn the Queen's Police Medal for exceptional bravery. Kaid is the current reigning commander of the fortress and is credited with building its current worldwide recognition. Nomad is missing her middle and ring finger on her right hand. This is due to her getting frostbite during an expedition and having to cut off these fingers. Gridlock has been friends with Mozzie for a very long time. They first met in high school during a Robot Wars competition, and then again during army training. And in the words of Harry, they've been a team ever since. At some point during the length of this operation, Mozzie was deployed to Operation Slipper. This was the name of the Australians' real-life operation in Afghanistan. He would be part of this operation until its conclusion in 2014. Before his time in the Secret Service and in the Presidential Protective Division, Warden was a part of the Marines, achieving Master Sergeant. Nook served in Afghanistan and Iraq, a lot of the time acting alone, as she would spend a lot of time deep undercover behind enemy lines. She was actually responsible for finding Maverick's location when he went missing during his deployment. During his time in the Special Forces, Goyo learned that drugs were no longer the primary source of income for cartels. This is then when he would begin to work with UNESCO and Interpol to combat antique trafficking. After her grandmother's funeral, Imara's auntie gifted her an old compass that once belonged to the famous English explorer Percy Fawcett, who had gifted it to her grandmother as a child. Callie's interest in martial arts led her to enlist into the military. However, she quickly discovered that women were not allowed to serve in the combat units. So, using her family's money, she left the military and created her own private security company, Nighthaven. Wamai is able to hold his breath underwater for far longer than his peers, and after a medical exploration, it revealed that he has an abnormal physiology. This leads Wamai to believe that he is not from this planet. In 2015, Ayana participated in Project Sidekick and traveled to the International Space Station. Her success with this project secured her a spot in the planned NASA Expedition 67 mission. This fueled her desire to explore space, and a big step in this for her was developing her new holographic technology. Oryx is the unofficial second-in-command to Kaid at the fortress. Once showing up as a lost man with no purpose, Oryx would go from cadet to recruit to steward to instructor, and now is Kaid's right-hand man. Growing up with a love for animal conservation in Africa, and understanding the threat in which poachers pose, Melusi would dedicate a lot of her life to protecting animals. And after resigning from the military, she began to train local women in tracking, intercepting, and surveillancing at the South African Wildlife College, with Melusi leading the Inkaba Task Force Anti-Poaching Unit. As part of a joint UN operation in Somalia, Ace saved the life of Callie, which resulted in him getting the offer to join Nighthaven. Zero, also known as Sam Fisher, was an associate of Finka's father, and Sam actually first met Finka when she was just a little girl. During her childhood, Aruni's little sister had accidentally detonated an unexploded landmine whilst playing with it, and this ended up killing her. Aruni dedicated her life to helping others, which had been affected by old unexploded devices such as this. In 2016, Flores had his identity exposed when crime lords tracked their stolen money to him. It turns out that not only was he giving his money back to the community, he also used it to pay for his mother's hospital bills. Because of this, they killed his mother. This caused Flores to have to flee. Ash, who was in the same place investigating smuggling rings, happened to hear about this situation and offered Flores asylum in the US in exchange for providing evidence against the town's crime lords. In 2015, Thunderbird found and rescued Nomad in the Canadian wilderness. After providing Nomad with some medical attention, Thunderbird started to do some repairs on her helicopter. After successfully fending off the bear, the two of them flew away to safety. Fast forward to 2021, and Nomad would recommend her to join Team Rainbow. Osa is the head of Nighthaven's QCR department, and her team are responsible for making all the high-tech gadgets you see at Nighthaven. Thorn finished the top of her class at the Garda's elite tactical branch of the emergency response unit, and it's around this time as well she would start a friendship with Sledge, the two of which would reunite when she joined Rainbow. Whilst working as a motorcycle officer for the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, Izami would earn her 3rd dan in Jiu-Jitsu and her 5th dan in Aikido. This would help earn her a spot in the security police division of the IMPD, and is here where she would first meet Hibana. Sense is a skilled combat engineer, and it is said that the support that they provided was so good at breaking down hostile defenses that Sense actually gained a reputation for minimizing casualties on both sides without compromising the mission objective. This would eventually catch the attention of the Belgian Special Forces, the group in which Sense would go on to serve under. It is said once as a child, Grim was helping his mother tend to her beehives. There, they were interrupted by an armed assailant. Grim, using the strategies he observed from the bees, managed to take down the man who was twice his size by focusing on the sensitive areas around the head. His aggression was so precise and overwhelming that his mother's attacker never recovered from the resulting coma. Solace is said to have quickly bonded with Zero when she joined the team, confessing that she was already familiar with his career through her extracurricular research. She sees him as a legend and takes every opportunity to train with him and interrogate him over coffee. After the death of her cousin, who was Capitao's older brother, Brava was motivated to pursue a degree in law due to the criminal involvement with his death. Fenrir's fascination in creating a chemical which can alter a soldier's emotions stemmed from his love of physical fitness and tactical organization and the effect that had on a soldier's emotional state. And finally, we have Ram, who as a child was left at a fire department and was raised through a series of orphanages, never to seemingly be adopted by a family. However, in her own words, I may not have a family, but I have Red Hammer. And so everyone, that was one lore fact in Rainbow Six Siege for every single operator up to and including Ram. Be sure to let me your thoughts in the comment section below about which one of these operators are your favorite, and if I haven't already, if I should make an entire lore video about them. This video took a lot of effort to make, so if you did enjoy, be sure to hit that sub button, drop a like on the video, and I shall catch you all later. I love you all, stay safe, peace.